It's Will and Share in the Face of Truth
Hi.
with another episode of bringing you Black history information for our young Black people, especially our young Black men who don't know their history. We want to get them in touch with it and learn them so that they can better make decisions that is going on today as we see what is happening today so they can be better educated and make sound decisions as we're coming up on the midterms in November. We want them to be well informed. So that's what we try to do, is to bring you Black history, Black information for them. I'm William. This is Sharon, better known as Will and Share, and this is In the Face of Truth. We're going to talk about two things tonight, fam. We're going to talk about the passing of an icon this week of Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and then we're going to talk about who is going to carry on the mantle of our civil rights fight that we really shouldn't have to be doing as much as we're doing because our ancestors paved the way, but because, again, 2 million ignorant Black people voted for this man, now we are in this situation that we are in now. So we are going to talk about that. And first of all, we're going to welcome Sherry.
Hi. Welcome, everybody.
So this past week, Black America has lost another legend, and that is the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. And he died February the 20th. No, I'm sorry. He died February 17th,
Yes.
2026 in Chicago. And he was part of the civil rights movement. He was part of the activism that went on in the 70s and 80s. And of course, he was with Dr. Martin Luther King. He was a protege of Dr. Martin Luther King and was with Dr. Martin Luther King when he was shot in 1968, April 4th, I believe, 1968, in Tennessee. And so he carried on the mantle and doesn't get as much publicity as Malcolm X or as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but he was an icon, and we're going to go over some of the things that he did. He was born October the 8th, 1941 in Greenville, South Carolina. And he had an education in North Carolina A&T, which is Agriculture and Technical State University, where he got a bachelor's degree. And then he went on to the Chicago Theological Seminary, where he quit actually the seminary 3/4 or 3 credits shy and to go to do the civil rights movement. And as a result of the work that he did, the seminary decided to give him a degree, a CM in divinity because of his work. Even though he was 3 credits short, they accounted the fact of the movement and the work that he did to give him his divinity degree.
Yes.
He was a Democrat, and he was married to Miss Jacqueline Brown, and they raised 6 children. And a lot of people who knew the Reverend Jesse Jackson said he was a good man. He was a human being. He made mistakes, as we all do.
Yes.
But he was a man that was really active and really was trying to do a great work, especially for those in the civil rights movement. In the 1980s, he expanded into internal affairs and was really never given the credit for the things he did. We'll touch on that in a little bit. 1984, he ran for president, and he finished 3rd in the Democratic nomination behind former Vice President Walter Mondale and Senator Gary Hart. And then he ran again in 1988, where he finished behind Mike Dukakis.
Yes.
And it was then that I met Mr. Reverend Jesse Jackson. I was a young intern at a radio station here in Columbus, Ohio, and he did a rally in Salem Baptist Church, I believe it was, and they sent me there to cover it, and got a chance to interview him and hear what he had to say during that time. And so then in 1990, he was elected as a shadow senator to the District of Columbia, where he served for 6 years under the presidency of George Bush and Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Okay, he hosted Both Sides with Jesse Jackson on CNN from 1992 to the year 2000. He was a critic of police brutality, the Republican Party, and conservative policies, and he was widely regarded as one of the most influential African Americans activists in his era. So there's a lot about Jesse Jackson that he helped with. They had some criticism of him also, but there was also a lot of good. So let's get back into the history of Jesse Jackson. Before we go, if you want anything to add to that, Sharon?
Well, I was young during the time of the civil rights movement, and it was maybe a couple of years later that I had even learned or even heard of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Well, I do know he was an activist, and I do know that he was back during the time of Dr. Martin Luther King, and how Dr. Martin Luther King kind of integrated him into the civil rights movement that was taking place at that time. And so he was kind of up and coming. He was the up and coming activist during the civil rights. Like I said, I was very young, and I know it was like a few years later that I had remembered his face. And how I remembered his face is awfully funny because he had gone over to, there was a news output on him, and how he had went over to, I forgot what country it was, and he brought home this African American soldier that was being held. And so that was at the time when I remembered this man's face, and I remembered his name, Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I thought it was so honorable that he was able, as a black man, to go over and to negotiate the release of this soldier that had been shot down and taken into well, I want to say hostage, or whatever they call when soldiers are taken into, you know what I'm saying?
Prisoners of war.
Yes, prisoners of war, POWs. And so I remembered his face from that year, and I think it was probably about maybe 8 or 9 at that time when that scenario happened with him. And so he was up and coming to me as a young man, an activist, who was rooted in what he was standing for, the freedoms and the democracy of African American people. Not only African American people, it was other people that he was standing for as well. And so, that picture of him stuck in my mind, seeing a black man being able to go and do that. So I'm sure you're going to bring that out. So I'll give it back to you.
Okay, he attended a racially segregated school in Sterling High School in Greenville, where he was elected student class president, finished 10th in his class, and earned letters in baseball, football, and basketball, a 3-letter athlete. So in 1959, he rejected a minor league professional contract in order to go to the University of Illinois on a football scholarship. But as it was custom back then, they did not allow black young athletes to quarterback. They wanted them at other positions. And so he transferred to North Carolina A&T, where he was able to be the quarterback for different reasons. Also, there was racial prejudice also up there on the University of Illinois, and he had limited participation on a competitive public speaking team. So because of that, he transferred to North Carolina A&T, where he was a quarterback, was elected student body president, and became active in civil rights protests against segregated libraries, theaters and restaurants. So that was the beginning of his fight for civil rights. In 1964, he graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology. He then attended the Chicago Theological Seminary on a scholarship. So in 1966, Jackson left the seminary 3 classes shy of of earning a master's degree to focus full time on the civil rights movement.
Yes.
Okay, he was an ordained a minister in 1968, and was awarded the Master of Divinity degree by the Chicago Theological Seminary in 2000, based on his previously earned credits and subsequent work and life experience. So you see that was on the educational level.
Mm-hmm.
So Jackson was known for commanding public attention since he started working for Martin Luther King Jr. In 1965, he participated in the Salem to Montgomery marches organized by James Bevel, King, and other civil rights leaders in Alabama. And then King, being impressed by Jackson's drive and organizational abilities, began giving Jackson a role in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, though he was concerned about Jackson's apparent ambition and attention seeking. And when Jackson returned from Selma, he was charged with establishing a frontline office for the SCLC in Chicago, Illinois.
Yes.
1966, Jesse Jackson was chosen to head up the Chicago branch of the SCLC economic arm, Operation Breadbasket. He was promoted to the national director in 1967. Operation Breadbasket had been started by the Atlanta leadership of the SCLC as a job placement agency for black people. Under Jackson's leadership, a key goal was to encourage massive boycotts by black consumers as a means to pressure white-owned businesses to hire blacks and to purchase goods and services from the black-owned firms. And this was something that they have been fighting for and we even today are trying to get our community to come together. So this was something they was trying to do back then, to get the community to invest in the black community. But for some reason we have bits and pieces. And one thing that you said, that when the black people do get a community and get things together, then it gets destroyed by the white people who are jealous of that. And so one of the questions, how do we stop that from happening?
That's a very good question too. I think the main thing is that I think first of all, we as black people have to learn how to unify. And you'll see what I'm saying even when my husband continues to read concerning Jesse Jackson's life and the things that he had to endure, even amongst his own people, because the jealousy rising up. You know, a lot of times I talk to my husband, I tell my husband, I said, the reason why a lot of us can't get together is because there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody wants to have the vision first. And you know, we as a people, we have to learn how to glean from one another, you know, how to learn how to support one another, and what not have you, and whatever it is that we have to contribute to building up our black race. And I don't want to sound like this is meant to be racist in any kind of a way. First of all, we want to let you know that we do love the Lord. We love people, but we also love our black people. We love our black community, and it's time to see our people come together. It's time to see we have people that it's so crazy because you think about the election, and this deals with some of that. You think about the election, and you have a lot of our people that went the opposite way of voting because of how they felt about a certain party. And we're not here to tell you what party to vote for or who to vote for or anything like that. But it's time for us as a people to learn how to use our resources to better the communities from which we come, to better our people, to help our people to do better, to build our own. We've spent a lot of time honey, going to other people and building up, and again, this,
communities.
yes, their communities, buying from their communities, giving into their communities, but we've done nothing for ourselves. And it's really, really sad that our Black communities don't have a lot going for ourselves. We don't have our own grocery stores. A lot of us do, which is nice. Like in Atlanta, when you go there, you'll see a lot of businesses owned by Black people, and that's really a blessing to see that. But the main thing is now is that we have to learn how to come together, and we have to learn how to stand up and fight for what belongs to us. And when I say fight, I'm not talking about getting out here with guns or anything like that, but doing it in a lawful manner, like I said before. To be able to stand up for our freedoms, our democracy, our rights that's being torn down right in front of us. This president and the people that are over him, and we got that down here too. Getting ahead of myself, but they're pushing to destroy our civil rights. They're pushing to destroy our civil liberties. They're pushing to destroy everything that our ancestors have built in the past, have fought for and struggled for in the past. And will we just sit idly by and let that happen? That's a question you have to ask yourself. What can I do to stop what is happening? They've taken our history, our Black history, out of the schools because they don't want their children to learn about Black history. Black history is American history. It's the history of this country. It's our history, and it needs to be told over and over and over and over again. How do you learn about other people's cultures? How do you learn about other people's struggles unless you tell what happened from the past to the present to the future? And so I'm going to turn it back to my husband and let him continue on with Reverend Jesse Jackson. This is what he was fighting for, and so we have to think about the fight, the struggle.
So in the 1950s, T.R.M. Howard, a proponent of the consumer boycott tactic, soon became a major supporter of Jackson's efforts, donating and raising funds and introducing Jackson to prominent members of the Black business community in Chicago. Operation Breadbasket held public weekly workshops in Chicago's South Side featuring white and Black political, economic leaders and religious, complete with jazz, band, and choir. Jackson became involved in the SCLC leadership disputes following King's assassination on April the 4th, 1968. When King was shot, Jackson was in the parking lot, one floor below. In the wake of King's death, Jackson worked on SCLC's Poor People's Campaign in Washington, D.C., and was credited with managing his 15-arc tent city, but he began to clash with Ralph Abernathy, King's successor as chairman of the SCLC. In 1969, the New York Times reported that several Black leaders viewed Jackson as King's successor and that Jackson was one of the few Black activists who was preaching racial reconciliation. Jackson believed a conspiracy was involved in King's murder. In 1978, he met with King's convicted assassin, James Earl Ray, for 4 hours. Jackson stated that Ray was involved in King's assassination, but did not kill him, and that others who were involved were still walking the streets. Al Sharpton, a then teenager who was a notable activist involved with Operation Breadbasket, who later gained greater prominence, who Jackson mentioned early in life and later appointed as youth director of Operation Breadbasket's Brooklyn branch in 1969. Jackson was seeking to form a coalition with whites in order to approach which were considered racial problems as economic and class problems. When we change the race problem into a class fight between the haves and the have-nots, then we are going to have a new ball game, he said. In the 21st century, some public school systems are working on an approach for affirmative action that deals with family income rather than race, recognizing that some minority members have been very successful. The Times also indicated that Jackson was being criticized as too involved with middle-class blacks and for having an unattainable goal of racial unity.
Wow.
1971, Abernathy ordered Jackson to move the national office of Operation Breadbasket from Chicago to Atlanta and sought to place another person in charge of the local activities, but Jackson refused to move. In October 1971, he organized the Black Expo in Chicago, a trade and business fair to promote black capitalism and grassroots political power. That was a 5-day event, and attendees from 40 states, such as politicians like Cleveland Mayor Carl Stokes and Chicago Mayor Richard J. Daley, were in attendance. Now, Daley's presence was seen as a testament to the growing political economic power of blacks.
Yes.
So what do we got here?
There's something that popped up. It says the best part of being your age, and then they want to answer to that, and I'm not really sure how to get this off. But anyway.
Okay, well, if it's not going to interfere, we'll do that later. Okay. December of 1971, a complete fallout between Jackson and Abernathy, as it was said that this was part of a leadership struggle between the two, where Jackson's, who had a national profile, and Abernathy, whose prominence from the civil rights movement was beginning to wane. The break began when Abernathy questioned the handling process of receipts from the Black Expo and then suspended Jackson as the leader of Operation Breadbasket for not obtaining permission to form non-profit corporations. Al Sharpton, then the youth, did I go away?
Yes.
Good. Al Sharpton, then youth group leader of SCLC's, left the organization to protest Jackson's treatment and formed the National Youth Movement. Jackson and his entire breadbasket staff and 30 to 35 board members resigned from the SCLC and began planning a new organization. Time magazine quoted Jackson as saying, at the time that the traditional civil rights movement had lost its offensive thrust. People United to Save Humanity, Operation PUSH, officially began operations on December 25th, 1971, with which Jackson later changed the name to People United to Save Humanity. At its inception, Jackson planned to orient Operation PUSH toward politics and to pressure politicians to work to improve economic opportunities for blacks and poor people of all races. SCLC felt the new organization would help black businesses more than it would help the poor. In 1978, Jackson called for a closer relationship between blacks and the Republican Party, telling the party's national committee that black people need the Republican Party to compete for us so that we can have a real, what is that?
Let's see. Looks like real alternatives.
Oh, alternatives. Okay, thank you. The Republican Party needs black people if it's ever to compete for national office. In 1983, Jackson and Operation PUSH led a boycott against Anheuser-Busch, criticizing the company's level of minority employment. In 1981, Jackson organized the Rainbow Coalition and resigned his post as president of Operation PUSH. In 1984, to run for the president of the United States, though he remained involved as the chairman of the board. PUSH's activities were described in 1987 as conducting boycotts of business to induce them to provide more jobs and businesses to blacks, and as running programs for housing, social services, and voter registration. The organization was funded by the contributions from businesses and individuals. In the early 1987, he continued the existence of Operation PUSH and was imperiled by debt, a fact that Jackson's political opponents used during his race for the 1988 Democratic Party nomination. In the mid-1990s, the Operation PUSH and Rainbow Coalition organizations were merged. On July 16, 1960, Jackson's, while home from college, joined 7 other African Americans in a sit-in at the Greenville Public Library in Greenville, South Carolina, which only allowed white people. The group was arrested for disorderly conduct, and Jackson's pastor paid the bond. This sit-in was a result of the Greenville City Council closing both the main library and the branch Black people used. The possibility of a lawsuit led to the reopening of both libraries September 19th, the day after the news printed a letter written by D.D. Wright of the Greenville News. And in 1984, a Black man by the name of James Dupree Henry was scheduled for execution in Florida, who was convicted of killing J. L. Raleigh, an Orlando-based civil rights leader. Jackson met with Graham, but was unable to persuade him of a stay of execution after Coretta Scott King sent letters asking for the halt of Harry's life being forfeited, but which failed after Jackson's visit, and Henry was executed on September 20th. And so before I get into this last part, do you have any comments?
Yes. I just want to encourage our listeners. So you see all the work that Reverend Jesse Jackson did. And I just want to say to you, a lot of times we as a people, we think that, well, what can I do? You know, what do I have to offer to the cause, to the fight, to continue the fight on our freedoms and our democracy and our civil liberties in this country? But everybody, listen, there's something for everybody to do. And when my husband goes down the list, you'll see it was many, 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 many people. And the fight for the cause from the time of the slaves being freed and all down throughout the other times that he's going to bring out. There's something that each and every one of us can do. You know, if we all just get on the same page and stand up and take a stand for the things that Black people are being attacked with right now. And that is the removal of our civil rights, the removal of our civil liberties in this country. This is not a black or a white or a yellow or red country. America is a melting pot of people that live here with different cultures and different backgrounds, you know, different beliefs and whatnot have you. And so we are not to force the way that we think or our culture upon another person's culture. We're not to do that. And so when you think about it, yes, we all play a part in this. One thing that I will bring out, and I'm gonna turn it back to my husband, is that watching this situation with the ICE that just went down, where 3 people were killed, and I believe it was more than that. It's just that the news have not been reporting the ones that got killed while in the custody of ICE. But you see how African Americans have always took the stand in the forefront, okay? But this time, African American people kind of sat back and sipped tea. When they had the riots and stuff down in, was it Minneapolis, or when George Floyd got killed and whatnot have you, Black people were out in the forefront. But yet the problem with that is that when we go out to protest, and a lot of us sometimes get overexcited, we overdo, you know, and so therefore there was a lot of damage done to people's properties, to businesses and whatnot have you. And that's not the type of fight that we're calling for. We're calling for peaceful protests with our Black people to stand up, speak out. There is something, like I said, everybody can do. Let this presidency, let this administration hear your voice and know that you are willing to take that stand for the fight for freedom, for our civil liberty. It's wrong. We need to condemn what's going on. It's wrong for this president and the people behind him that's pushing the Project 2025 to tear down what our ancestors have fought for and struggled for, and some even died for. It's wrong to tear down our civil liberties. It's wrong to tear down our freedoms and try to take us back to those times where Black people were treated more like property than human beings. And so it's wrong. We are to condemn that. The word of God speaks of it. You know, God hates evil, God hates wrong, and we're to hate that too. I hate it when people are mistreated, you know, because of the color of their skin and not looked at for the content of their character. We are to stand up, we are to speak out, we are to be peaceable, and we can protest. We have laws that we can stand up for and in, and do things according to the law, not according to what we think or how we feel, or organizing just to be seen, or organizing to tear up stuff. We're not here for that. But we're telling you there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And so everybody can play a part in the right way to do things. So back to my husband.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things that Jesse Jackson did on an international level. Jackson's influence extended to international matters in the 1980s and 1990s. 1983, he traveled to Syria to secure the release of a captured American pilot, Navy Lieutenant Robert Goodman, who was being held by the Syrian government. Goodman was shot down over Lebanon while on a mission to bomb Syrian positions in that country. After Jackson's dramatic personal appeal to President Hafez al-Assad, Goodman was released. On January 4th, Reagan welcomed Jackson and Goodman to the White House. 1984, June, Jackson negotiated the release of 22 Americans being held in Cuba. After an invitation by the Cuban President Fidel Castro on the eve of the Persian Gulf War, Jackson made a trip to Iraq to plead with Saddam Hussein for the release of the foreign nationalists held there as human shields, securing the release of several British and 20 American individuals. Jackson was also an advocate for the end of racial apartheid regime in South Africa, lobbying Pope John Paul II and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev against the South African government. Jackson accompanied anti-apartheid leader and future President Nelson Mandela on Mandela's release from his long imprisonment in South Africa. 1997, Jackson traveled to Kenya to meet with Kenyan President Daniel Arap Moi as the United States President Bill Clinton's special envoy for democracy to promote free and fair elections. 1999, during the Kosovo War and the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, he traveled to Belgrade to negotiate the release of 3 U.S. POWs captured on the Macedonian border while patrolling with UN Peacekeepers Unit. Along with Serbian-American Congressman Rod Blagojevic, he met with then Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic, who later agreed to release the 3 men Jackson's negotiation was not sanctioned by the Clinton administration. Jackson's other travels included February 15, 2003, in Hyde Park, London, where 1 million people gathered for an anti-war demonstration against the imminent invasion of Iraq by the U.S. and the United Kingdom. In 2004, Jackson visited senior politicians and community activists in Northern Ireland in an effort to encourage better cross-community relations and rebuild the peace process and restore government's installations of the Belfast Agreement. And there's so much more that Jesse Jackson went on to accomplish, and there's not enough time to tell all of it. Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, the civil rights leader and activist, he died February 17th in his home in Chicago at the age of 84 years old, surrounded by his family. Although he's gone, his legacy will be remembered and honored by the thousands of lives he has impacted right here on earth. So tonight we give honor to Jesse Louis Jackson for the fight for civil rights and liberties for Black peoples and many accomplishments which he achieved in his lifetime.
Well done.
And as he was a lot of tributes came in. We had one that came in from that person in the White House, which was not a tribute, but was really another case of lying. He stated that Jesse Jackson couldn't stand President Barack Obama.
Jesus have
And this
mercy.
is not true. And of course, first of all, he said it in a way that Jesse Jackson couldn't defend himself. But I think his family came out and others came out and stated that this was not true. But what else is new? But this is because this man in the White House and his administration, it's a way of trying to form division.
Yes.
To tell black people, well, this black man didn't like this, but no, he had disagreements.
That's
Everyone
right.
had. You have disagreements with your wife. You
That's
have
right.
disagreements with your husband, but you still love him. He had disagreements with President Obama, but he supported him. He was crying the night that President Obama got elected.
Yes.
So this is just an example. Reverend Jesse Jackson's death just proved that they used the Republican Party, and plus this man in the White House and his administration uses it to divide. He didn't have no care for Jesse
That's
Jackson.
right.
He
That's
was just
right.
using that to try to divide the black community, which they are trying to do, and also to get back at President Barack Obama, because President Barack Obama was a great president.
Yes, he was.
And this man in the office is the worst president in the history of this world.
Yes.
And he knows it. That's why he has to keep, and he knows that he can't stand up to President Barack Obama. But so that's why he continues to criticize him and continues. He just put out a meme depicting Michelle Obama and President Barack Obama as apes. But then he held this
Black
charade
history.
of a black history
Lord help.
where it is alleged, and I believe it, I don't know for sure, but it's alleged that those people, a lot of people, the black people, are being paid to do this. And it's alleged, but I believe it because there's been other people have come right out and said so. I'm not going to say it because I don't know if it's a fact or not, but I partly believe it. And they
Me
get up
too.
there, this show that they had on, I'm sure it was rehearsed. We saw you, Grandma. It means nothing. Now, I really pray for you in the loss of your grandson.
Yes, we do.
But it's a shame that they take the loss of her grandson
Yes.
and turn it into that. This should not have been about what they made it about.
That's
the loss
right.
of her grandson. If they wanted to do something, that didn't have to be made public. If you were sincere about some things, you don't make things public.
That's right.
There's some things that you do because of the goodness of the heart, but to take advantage of grandma who lost her grandson, and then they make her get up there
While
and
she's
tell the
grieving.
whole world while she's grieving. They use you. They use you. And they're using, and they had all the video of all these black people standing in line, and they're standing in line to get into, we don't even know if that was a real video or not.
That's right.
It might have been fake, because this administration puts out lies and deceits. They've already proven that, so you can't really believe anything that they say.
That's right.
Those black people might have been standing in line to get the check from the publisher and go in for the show.
That's so true.
So black people don't get food. He's saying the economy is good. Black people's unemployment is rising. The condition of black people in the South is deteriorating.
Yes.
They're trying to keep black people, especially in the South, from voting because they want to stay in power. They're not doing nothing for black people.
That's right.
He got up there on Black History Month, talking about how great he did for HBCUs. In the 2 terms he was in there, he gave $750 million begrudgingly. He didn't want to do it. He was forced to do it.
Yes.
Joe Biden, for all you can say, he put a record $15 billion
Yes.
into HBCUs. So compare $16 billion in 4 years compared to $750 million begrudgingly in 5 years, and do the math. They're not for you. They're trying to divide because they want to stay in power so they can continue their agenda to exterminate the immigrants and to put, as they say, like to say, put black people in their place. So don't believe that about Jesse Jackson not standing Barack Obama. He was happy.
Yes.
They worked together. He
Yes.
agreed, disagreed with some of his policy, but he was happy. And believe me, Jesse Jackson was not happy
That's right. That's
with the
right.
thing where this administration is dismantling civil rights and dismantling the black community, erasing black history. He couldn't have been, because look at all that he did to accomplish and put those things in place. And now he saw his mentor, Martin Luther King, killed for the Civil
Yes.
Rights Movement, for the Voting Rights Act, for the Housing Act, for all the advancements that we made. And do you think now that what's going on with the tearing up, that he was not unhappy with the way this administration was tearing down the things that
He fought for.
he fought for? And then this man is going to get up there and say that him and Jesse Jackson were great friends and all that. It is a lie. Look
Stop
up the
believing
facts.
lies, y'all.
Stop being deceived. They're going to bring out more misinformation, and we're going to be here to refute it and give you the facts as we lead up to these midterms, God willing.
In the face of truth.
Amen.
That's the name.
That's the name.
All right, we got a little bit more for you. And I do want to add to something that my husband just brought out, and that is even the Speaker of the House, I believe Johnson, he refused to allow Jesse Jackson's body to lay in the Capitol for 2 days. I believe it was Rosa Parks whose body was laid in the Capitol for a couple of days when she passed and went on. But he refused to let Reverend Jesse Jackson's body, he refused the family, he refused to allow them to let his body lay in the Capitol. What was that going to hurt? This was a mighty man. This was an icon. This was a legend of the civil rights movement in and of itself. What was that going to hurt to let his body lay in the Capitol? So I just want to throw that out there. And then another thing is too, and this is what I shared with my husband earlier, is that there's so much hypocrisy coming out of the mouth of this man that's in office right now, the highest office in the land. To say one thing, that I've done more for black people than any other president, that's been a lie. And we have to debunk those lies. Okay? We debunk the lies in the face of truth. That's how we debunk the lies that are coming out of the mouth of this man. Because he hasn't done more for black people. We're not better off with him. We're not looking for a great white hope, whether it's the Democrats or Republican. We're looking for somebody that's got character, that's got dignity, integrity, to stand up in the White House and to be fair about your policies and the things that you are putting out here. And certainly this administration and this president is not pushing fairness. And it's a shame. It's a shame what you hear coming across the social media and a little thing that he gets on and he types up his little messages and what not have you, trying to tear different people down. It's a shame. And it makes us a laughing stock here in America.
So don't fall for it, black people.
That's right. We should be further along than what we
are. You got food this last election. Don't get food in these midterms.
That's right.
Don't get food.
Okay. So we're going to move to our next thing. And this is something we wanted to talk about. The word baton. Baton. It means runners in a relay race past a hollow tube shaped object called a baton. I used to run in track and field, and I was a part of a relay team, which consisted of about 4 people. And what they have is they have this piece of tube where you have to, the first runner runs a certain distance and you have to pass it on to the next runner that's waiting to pass it on to the third runner. And the third runner will pass it on to the fourth runner, which is the final runner that has to run as fast as he or she can to get down to the finish line before anybody else on any other team can get there. And that's what this baton is all about. It's an object passed between team members with a designated 20-meter exchange zone. We're in the exchange zone, people. Reverend Jesse Jackson just went home, hopefully to be with the Lord. We're in an exchange zone, all right? And so the baton is being passed every time one of our icons, every time one of our civil rights activists passes on, they're passing the baton to the next generation, and that generation is us, to see what we're going to do with it. The goal is to transfer the baton smoothly without dropping it or stopping, ensuring the next runner continues at full speed. We got to continue at full speed ahead. This is not the time to put the brakes on. And I said it before, it's not the time to sit back and sip tea. It's the time for us to throw strategy around, to throw information back and forth to one another as to how we are going to do this thing to win back our civil liberties, our freedoms, and our democracy here in America. Okay, so we got to continue full speed ahead until the last one reaches the finish line with baton in hand for the win. So will you be the one to pick up the baton? I'm going to turn it to my husband.
So the last thing is question to the floor. Who will be the next in line to carry the baton and stand flat-footed in the fight for our civil rights, freedom, civil liberties, and our democracy, especially at the time when this man in office, MAGA, white nationalists, and white supremacists who are pushing their mandated handbook called Project 2025 with an all-out attack on Black and brown people, our culture, history, and accomplishments from the time of our inception as slaves in 1619, as his presidency and those behind him hide behind DEI and the push to destroy all that our ancestors have fought so too hard for since that time.
Yes.
For it was during these times that the fight for our freedoms from slavery, starting with the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation, the Reconstruction period, which followed by Jim Crow laws, which all led up to the civil rights and the fight for equality, justice, and freedom for Blacks in this country and around the world. Many of our Black ancestors and freedom fighters have passed off the scene. Civil rights leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Coretta Scott King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, Fannie Mae Lou, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Jesse Jackson, Black Panthers, Angela Davis, Nat Turner, W.E.B. Du Bois, John Lewis, Harvey P. Newton, Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall, Booker T. Washington, Cicely Tyson, Ida B. Wells, Alberta Christina Williams, Dr. King's mom, and many others who fought, stood, and chose to carry the mantle of civil rights freedom on behalf have left. The legacy of resilience is waiting for us in this time to carry on with the same determination until we cross the finish line of the fight that was started so long ago.
Will you carry the baton to the finish line? So the baton has been passed to us. This is a generation to rise up, stand up, and to continue to push the legacy that was started so long ago. So we have three things that we want to share with you, and we're going to end our show today in the face of truth. And we want to leave these things in your memoirs. One of the things that we need to do is to continue the movement for our civil rights and freedoms. That's one of the things that we need to do. This is not the time to sit idly by. It's time to put our heads together. It's time to come up with a vision. We need to be visionaries during this time. And it's time to find out how we can push back to regain what this administration and this president is trying so hard to destroy. Number two, we need to stay woke, stay visual, and stay in the know. Those three things: stay woke, stay visual, and stay in the know. And number three, we need to be determined, and we don't need to fear. We need to be determined, and we don't need to fear. This is not the time to be a coward. This is the time for us as a people, Black people, to stand up, to push back, to regain what they have taken from us. And I say it's the enemy that's using them. But we have power over the enemy, and we need to stand for truth. Stand in the face of truth against those that are standing for a lie. Okay? We need to stand together. We need to encourage one another. We need to, again, like I said, have a vision to be able to stand and push back. We need to come together, Black people. This is our time, because a lot of our ancestors are leaving. They have left and gone. And there's few far in between of those from back in the 60s and 70s that are still around. What's his name in the White House that's pushing for impeachment? He's up in age. Al Green. We have a couple of other ones. Max, we call her Auntie Maxie. She's still pushing, but she's up in age. Come on, this generation got to wake up. This generation got to grow up. This generation has to stand up for truth in the face of opposition, and we don't have to fear. Okay?
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for all the comments. We're still trying to get set up. We're trying to get it so we can hear your comments and respond to you. So keep us in your prayers. Be patient with us. And as we continue to go on, we will continue to get better.
That classic car guy, he said that Crockett is also pushing. Yes, and she's of the younger generation that is trying to push. We need to get behind her. We need to get together. We need to stand up. And it's just time for Black people to rise. Rise. Yeah. We don't have to sit idly by and take this stuff that's being dished out to us. Yeah. We have rights.
As far as Jasmine Crockett goes, we need the Democratic Party to stand behind her, because she's the one that's standing up.
Yes.
And these men in the Democratic Party, instead of fighting, they need to become men.
That's right.
And get the courage and backbone that she has, and follow her and get behind her. She can't do it by herself. Al Green can't do it by herself.
That's
Hakeem
right.
Jeffries, or you Chuck Schumer, or you other Democrats, John Fetterman, whatever you are, you need to get behind Jasmine Crockett, get behind Al Green, and get a one unified voice. And I don't know what y'all doing up there, but y'all need to get your act together.
That's right.
I'm tired of seeing Jasmine Crockett out there by herself.
That's right.
Tired of seeing Al Green, the only one standing up. And then there's another one from California that got on Pam Bondi's case last week.
Yes.
Those three. Let's get it together if y'all want to win back the confidence of the Black people. Quit taking the Black people's vote for granted. You got to start earning it starting today.
That's right.
And do it. Start by getting behind your Black Democratic representatives and leaders.
Yes.
Get behind Jasmine Crockett and get her into the Senate in Texas. Get behind Representative Al Green and get those impeachments together for when y'all take back over the House. Get behind the Democratic leaders so that you can take over the Senate.
Yes.
So that y'all can actually do some good and reverse this mess that we're in now. But also remember that God gets the glory of all of it.
That's right.
And we will not do anything to say that God is not in control. God is still in control, and he still gets the glory. So we have to pray and be led of God. All right, this has been Will and Share in the Face of Truth. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you like what you hear, hit that like and subscribe button.
And share.
And share it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for coming, everybody. He said that is the problem with our younger Black generation, which I am a younger Black man, is that everybody is chasing that dollar and trying to follow the train but a lot of them are on the wrong chain. You're so right, brother. You're so right.
We need more brothers
Yes.
like you. Go out
Yes.
and spread the word.
Yes.
We need young brothers like you to carry the mantle. And we need to educate our young black men. We need to educate our young black people.
Start
we
in
need
the
to
community.
educate our black people.
Exactly.
So that 2 million won't make the same mistake they made before in voting for this racist in office.
Yes, and start in your community. Go out and get these young men to come together. Start having places where you can go speak out and speak up and see where the blacks are standing in your community and try to rally them. Rally right where you are. We got to start right where we are in order to get our people to come together and unify, or we're going to lose everything that our ancestors have fought so hard for us to have. And I refuse to go back to Jim Crow. I refuse to not be able to drink from a water fountain that anybody else drinks from. It's time to take a stand, y'all.
And we want to thank all of y'all that joined us tonight.
Thank
And we
you.
look forward to hearing you next time on In the Face of Truth. God bless.